Okay, let's go.
Let me try that again. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. How the devil are you doing this fine day? My apologies for the lack of sound. I forgot to, I've got a post-it note here that says turn the sound on, but I forgot. Just noticed a thing. When I'm triggering good mornings to everybody, including, let me see, Gary Muirhead, Jim Turner, Chris Ford, Nigel Williams, Peter McKenna, Dan Cullen, Glenn Johnston, and Uncle Tom Cobley and all, they're now appearing over on Instagram. That's never happened before. Nobody told me that it was going to happen, but it did. Gary Muirhead, where is the post-it note? It's there, right in front of me. Right in front of me, and yet I still missed it. I was so enamored by the fact that our triggered comments over from our machine here were going over onto Instagram. Completely lost my train of thought. My apologies. I'm also going to say good morning. Who they've just said good morning to me. Collins825 over on Instagram. Good morning to you. Don't know where you are or what you're doing, but good morning. Thank you for joining us. Yes. He's even lost my button. I haven't lost your button. I've pressed your button. I even saw you come up over on, I'll tell you what, I want to do it again just to be sure, but I actually saw it come up over on Instagram. There you are, Peter. Your button has been pressed, though not in the biblical sense, I hasten to add. It's going to be a long day today, not helped by the fact that I've already cocked up this morning. It's going to be a long week in actual fact. Obviously, we will be back again this evening with our Who Speaks for Construction Workers show, rather, with Andy Stevens. I sincerely hope you can join us for that one. I'll tell you a bit more in a second. But if you've been watching your social media channels overnight, you'll know that our dedicated Didcot show is now in the diary for this Friday morning. There is going to be no breakfast show. It's going to be entirely dedicated to marking the 8th anniversary of the Didcot disaster. And I can tell you that Collins825 is actually watching us live from beautiful, according to them, beautiful northern New Jersey. I know my son Fred spent a bit of time in New Jersey a few years back. He was very impressed. So northern New Jersey, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Stick around. Let us know what's going on in New Jersey. Let us know what you're watching. Love to hear from you. Yes, and then next Wednesday, just to remind you very quickly, next Wednesday we'll be joined by JCB's Tim Burnhope as we focus upon the non-road mobile machinery consultation that is currently taking place literally as we speak, and which will ultimately become some kind of NRMM legislation, which will basically dictate how this industry is powered and fueled into the future. Don't forget, tune in for that one. I think you're going to enjoy that. And that is in addition, obviously, to all of our usual breakfast shows. So don't forget, first one of those, we're live tonight at 7 p.m. UK time, obviously, with our dedicated show, Who Speaks for the Construction Worker. As always, your input is not just valued, it's encouraged. I really want to get you to pop along if you'd be so kind, and share your experiences of working within the construction and demolition industry, because that is what we're going to be talking about. Now, lots and lots of comments coming in over here. Let's have a look. Dan Cullen is back on a Volvo 140 today at Redhead Demolition. Good morning to Redhead Demolition as well. I tell you what, I'm going to lose those early doors because I want to be able to see what I'm doing. I can't believe, says Gary Muirhead, it's nearly 8 years and still no outcome. Shocking. Peter McKenna says I'll be there because he doesn't want to be a square. Yeah, just going back to that. I mean, I am planning to do 99% of the Didcot show unscripted, but I have actually been piecing together last night and this morning. I've been piecing together some bits and pieces that I want to share about Didcot to make sure I get my facts straight, basically. And yes, 8 years. 8 years and basically no movement. I've already seen a copy of the statement that the police are planning to issue on the anniversary, or probably the day before, so that the newspapers get it, and they have moved not 1 inch from the last time they did it. Good morning to Andy Darvell, who has joined us. Dan Cullen is saying good morning to Peter to Nigel to Gary to Jim to Glenn. Ken Hatter has joined us from Welsh Wales, where they have some very Welsh weather. What's the weather doing, by the way, over in North New Jersey? Now, there's a man that plans ahead, Gaz Evans of Gem Attachments. Finest models in all of Christendom. He is already preparing for Hillhead, which obviously is, let me think, where are we? March, April, May, June. Still 4 months away, and he's preparing for it. Glad to see. Looking forward to seeing you there, Gaz. I think I've probably caught up there. So, how about, without further ado, we roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. And I'll try not to press the wrong buttons anymore. Here we go. Just to bring you fully up to speed with all that is happening weather-wise, I can tell you that in Wales, it is lashing down. And over in North New Jersey, apparently, it's 24 degrees, windy, and a bit chilly, apparently. And I'm also going to say good morning to Galvin, who's just joined us from Mostly Diggers over on Instagram as well. It is, what is it? It is Wednesday, the 21st of February. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, we're going to be taking a closer look at the latest generation of JCB backhoe loaders in the company of none other than the JCB Digger Girl. How Caterpillar is simplifying log handling. We have Demolition suspended. It means something different, but you'll see. It's also boom time at JCB. And Sunward throws shapes ahead of its appearance at Intermat 2024. But before we get to all of that, we do have the small matter of trying to decipher what today's mystery machine is going to be. So, here's this. I'll do that in just a moment, but I do want to bring you up to date on a few bits and pieces. Apparently, not only Wales has the rain, it's a very wet Isle of Dogs. Yes, it is raining cats and dogs on the Isle of Dogs. Diggers and dozers. Where is this situated? In Australia, says Desmond Turner. We're actually in the UK. In the UK, if you're watching from Australia, good day. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Lou Carney, haven't seen Lou here for quite some time. She's been up to her eyes and neck and other body parts in All Things Executive High Show. Morning, Lou. Apparently, it's chucking it down in Fareham as well. Jim Turner, it's lagging it down in Nottingham. Dan Cullen completing the set. It is passing it's passing here in London. Yes. And apparently over in Belfast. Should we just accept the fact that apart from northern New Jersey, where it's just a bit chilly, it is just chucking it down everywhere? Good morning to my friends at OTM Attachments who have just joined us over on Instagram. Where's Noah, let alone Wally, says Mick Saunders, and persisting down here in Manchester. It's wet out, isn't it? Now, I did promise you a mystery machine. And a mystery machine, by God, you will have. Here we go. That's what you've got to work with. It's a wheel. Can anyone identify what that is from a single wheel? Be impressed if you can. While you're figuring that out, and I just realized I don't think I actually posted the question of the day, so I'm going to do that very quickly. And I'm actually going to, at the same time, I'm going to remind you of what the question of the day is. I'm going to take that off the screen. You've had plenty of that. We'll come back to that in just a second. But here is our question of the day reminder. Yeah, I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. Andy Darvell says it is definitely an ADT. Could be. Peter McKenna believes it is a dumper. Could be. Jim Turner says it's an A25 Volvo. I can tell you it is not that. Dan Cullen says it's an A30 ADT. It is not that either. And Garvin over on Mostly Diggers on Instagram says it's a JCB 722. It is none of those things. It is none of those things. Chris Ford is taking a bit of a swing at a Volvo A40. It is not that. We'll come back to that in just a moment. But yes, our question of the day, which is one of mine. This is not Gary's because Gary is far too peaceable and pleasant. But my question of the day is, who in the world would you most like to punch? Now, obviously, we don't condone violence, although in this case, we are going to make an exception. And personally, my list is so long, I don't think I could fit it all into a single show. In fact, I could probably break it down into multiple categories of politicians, celebrities, regular people, even family members. Bearing in mind that I just went to make myself a pre-show cup of tea and my wife decided to put a wet mop on my fresh socks. She's top of the list, but apart from her, and in the interest of brevity, here is my list very quickly. Donald Trump, Michael Gove, Rishi Sunak. They would be top. Piers Morgan, Simon Cowell up next. U2 frontman Bono would be right up there. So would Gordon Ramsay. Stephen Mulhern, Joe Lycett, James Acaster, Nish Kumar, and all those comedians that are so busy being politically correct that they forgot to be funny. I'd also say Vladimir Putin, but I'm going to say it very quietly because I don't do well with poison. But what about you? Let us know in the chat. You've got a free punch to throw at anyone in the world. Who are you aiming at? We won't hold it against you. Now, we've had some more guesses. Let's have a look. Who have we got here? Dan Cullen is saying it is a Cat 730 ADT. Oh, bloody hell. Gary Muirhead has said a Terex TA30. You're not going to believe this, but we've actually got a correct answer based on that. Dan Cullen, based on nothing but a wheel, has said it is a Cat 745 ADT. Now, I was Peter McKenna has just said exactly the same thing. I was really hoping that the colour was going to throw you off. It did not. So the first answer, or the first correct answer, was Dan Cullen. And just to prove that he wasn't just taking a wild swing, I'm going to take him off the screen so you can see it. This is what you had to work with. Bit more. Cat 745 ADT, identified by Dan Cullen from nothing more than a wheel. Unbelievable. Keep the answers to our question of the day coming in, but that's as he says, boom, from a wheel. There's a little bit of me that worries about people that can identify a whole machine from just a wheel. Nigel Williams says, is it a mobile telescopic crane? It most definitely is not. We now know that. Mick Saunders says it's a crap respray. I think it has seen better days. And Dan Cullen says the position of the ram gave it away. I didn't even think about that. But congratulations, Dan. You've you have the admiration and stuff of your peers. Let's have a look. Take that away. Yeah, I think that will probably do us. So, should we actually get the show started? I can't even fall back on the mystery machine to fill gaps in the show now because Dan Cullen went and bloody identified it. Screwed me right up, Dan, but well done. Here we go. Yeah, the day after I got back from my most recent trip to JCB World Headquarters, which was last Wednesday, we brought you a film that showed you just some of the highlights of what we'd seen while we were there. You might recall that one of our number, Mr. Steve Williamson, who I don't think is in the chat today, but he asked a question about the position of the cameras to aid the use of the front forks on the latest generation of JCB backhoe loaders. I tried to give a reasonably educated answer to his question at the time because I'd actually seen it firsthand. But now we have a film that shows where those cameras are located. And it's a film that's presented by somebody that actually knows what the hell they're talking about as well. So I'm going to go onto the hard drive of my computer very quickly. And I'm going to hopefully find the thing that I'm after, which is, where is it? Here we go.
Georgina Williams, aka JCB Digger Girl, and we're here today at JCB Quarry because we are presenting our latest model of the 3CX and 4CX backhoe loader machines from JCB. The machine I've got behind me is actually our 55 kilowatt machine, so no AdBlue machine, and it's now fitted with a 6-speed auto shift gearbox with torque lock. That gearbox is now standard across our full range of backhoe loader models. Now also, particularly on this machine, which I really wanted to show you, is our newly designed integrated quick hitch forks, also known as easy forks. So the forks here have already been deployed, but what you would see when they're stowed away now, they actually sit on the outside of the loader arms, previously sat on the inside of the loader arms. Very difficult to get to, quite unsafe. You also ended up getting grease all over your clothes leaning over to get to that, so we don't have that anymore. The quick hitch couplings have been moved to the side there, making them much easier to access to remove your front shovel. Deploying the forks has never been easier. 2 steps, nice and safe, nice and light to be able to move as well. So really quick to be able to flip those forks out and get whatever job needs to be done on site. 2 new cameras, there is an option now that you can have with the quick hitch integrated fork option. There's one camera located here on the quick integrated into the quick hitch. That gives perfect visibility of these fork tips. What you'll find is that from in the cab looking down, when these forks are at ground level, you have 0 visibility. The only way to see roughly what you're doing is to actually undo your seatbelt and stand up and look over, which is not good practice, or to have someone on the ground directing you to get into those fork pockets or whatever load you need to lift. So now this camera gives significantly improved visibility. You can go straight in and scoop that pallet up, and ultimately it makes you a better operator on site. What you can see now on the camera is I can see perfectly what adjustments I need to make to be able to slide easily into that load. No damage to the bag there, just straight in. And scoop it up, easy peasy. There's a second camera just up there on top of the cab there. That camera gives perfect visibility of this quick hitch frame here, so that when you've folded your fork back up, you want to put your shovel back on. It gives you perfect visibility to be able to scoop that back up and not have any embarrassing moments chasing your shovel around the yard looking like you don't know what you're doing. It makes it so much easier as an operator to use.
She's good, isn't she? I can tell you, I was sat way behind the camera when she did that. That was one take. That wasn't looking at notes. That wasn't consulting with other people. She actually knows her onions that well. Let's say good morning to Eco Equipment, who've just joined us over on Instagram as well. I am going to throw up a few of the comments. Gary Muirhead says, "Why don't they come up with power forks? All it would take would be a ram." Good question, JCB, if you're watching, or maybe pop along on Wednesday week, or this time next week, or not this time, 7 p.m. next week. You can actually ask Tim Burnhope that very question. That's not what the show is about, but you can do that. Nothing in the world should be fitted with AdBlue. It's horrendous shite, says Peter McKenna. Let's be honest, it is but a stopgap, isn't it? It was purely to get down the emissions until we can do something better. Ken Hatcher says she's a nice girl. I don't want to sound patronizing, but there are instances where women are put into that position because they're women. Georgina is put into that position partly because she studied drama at university, so she's very good on camera, but because she knows her shit. Listen, outdid me. I've been doing this for 30 odd years. She's been doing it for a few years. She knows this stuff better than I do. Ken Hatcher likes the camera. Both of them. Yes, both of them. Dan Cullen says, very informative lady on the products of JCB. Well done, Georgina. Totally agree. I'm not going to put up Peter McKenna's comment because, that's not what we're trying to encourage on this. I think they could make the fork carrier wider so they go as wide as the bucket mounted ones, as it makes moving pipes, ducting and lengths of timber safer and easier, says Jim Turner. Graham Footy Williams would like to explain that AdBlue is a byproduct of pig piss. Thank you for that. Yeah, I have to say, my wife's car actually, it's a semi-hybrid, and it occasionally needs a top up of AdBlue, which it refers to as urea, which kind of reminds you exactly where it comes from. Deeply unpleasant. Gary Muirhead says they would be better to have see-through bucket camera that one of the wheel loaders came up with. That would be Devellon. Or it was originally a Doosan product, but it was a Devellon ultimately. I'm going to let you off with a small warning. The words that I didn't put on the screen said, Peter McKenna says, not my words, lad with me knows Georgie. Still not going to put it up. No, it's not. It's made in a laboratory. Okay, let's not dwell on that too much. Mick Norton says, answer your Aussie gold diggers query last week from Western Australia's Department of Mines. You cannot use earth moving equipment unless you have authorization. All works must be reinstated. I will PM you the Western Australia web link, which discusses this in far more detail. Thank you very much indeed. Peter McKenna, back again. Many people believe that the urea in AdBlue is made of pig urine. It isn't. The urea used to make AdBlue is a man-made solution. Pig urine wouldn't be sterile or pure enough for a commercial product. Well, you live and learn. I was always to the point where I actually had to top up the urea in my wife's car on the way back from JCB, oddly enough, just purely because we're talking about it. On the way back, warning light came up on the screen. I bought myself one of these disposable bags, I guess, bags of urea, and I made a point of holding my breath while I was putting it in the car, because I was convinced I was going to get a whiff of ammonia. Apparently, that may not be the case because it is man-made. And there's Mick Saunders saying, much obliged to Mick Norton. We're all much obliged to Mick Norton pretty much all the time, I would say. But thank you very much indeed for all that, gents. We do need to press on because, things to do, people to see. Let's have a look what we got. One of these, I think.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
It is time for a bit of demolition. Really. I'm not going to introduce our next film, rather. The images kind of speak for themselves. All I would say is this one best with the sound cranked up, cup of coffee in your hand. You just have to bear with me while I dredge this one off my hard drive as well, because this, again, was a big old file, and it looks, as soon as I can find it, it looks like this.
Another night, I fall in your sight. Your new eyes cut sharp like a knife. Take a moment and look all around you. I don't want you caught off guard or alarmed when I come for you. I need you to know that I would never walk away. I know what you need, I would bleed for you, but you're taking somebody home.
Coincidence is a weird thing, isn't it? That film came from New Jersey. Our friend Collins825 over on Instagram. Where are they? New Jersey. I had no idea they were coming. I had no idea until I watched that video back. That it was, I saved it a couple of days ago. No idea. And yet there we are. Serendipity strikes again. We've got some people that are not. Thank you very much indeed for that, Dan. A great video, great tune. Thank you very much indeed. Jim Turner says the Smurf juice is kin horrible stuff. That's AdBlue. That's what he's talking about. We had a discussion, well, a couple of times actually, about the NPAWS question. Mick Saunders says, I've dropped an email to them, no answer as of yet. I'm going to come back to Mick Norton in just a second, but I'm going to address this one from Gary Muirhead. Any more updates on the SK1300 working down under with Liberty Industrial and how it's performing? I am in the lap of the gods, Gary. Until somebody is committed or crazy enough to drive 24 hours off-road to Gove from, where were they near? Darwin, was it? Darwin to Gove, 24 hours there, 24 hours back, just to film the machine in action. I'm stuck. Liberty Industrial, if you would like me to pop over there, I mean, I'll do it for the cost of the flight and the accommodation. There you go. I'd love to go down and have a look at the machine, but as I say, I'm very much in the lap of the gods. Ken Asher says that video brought back memories of working with Balfour Beatty on pylon work. Mick Saunders not happy with that way of working. Yeah, suspended load. I did find that slightly odd. Jim Turner, I'm going to address this one first, and then I'm going to go back and deal with Mick Norton in just a second. Those direct mount forks are in a terrible spot on the 3.6. Might as well be driving with your eyes shut. The camera will be a great help, or better still, just have bucket mounted forks. So the camera will be a great help. Flip back to Mick Norton, who says, although the JCB young lady admirably demonstrated an innovative camera technique, I should state that any forklift truck operator worth his or her salt would not need camera enhancement aids. I think in the nearly 4 years that we've been doing this show, I've been in agreement with Mick Norton on virtually everything. On this occasion, I'm going off in a different direction. I spent Jesus, nearly 40 years reversing my car by looking over my shoulder, and mirrors, and I did that. I've got a reversing camera now. It's better. It really is better. Oh, who we got here? Billy Upton. Billy Upton, good morning to you. How are we, pal? Well, I don't know about you, Billy, but I am hunky-dory. I couldn't be more hunky or dory if I tried. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Chris Ford has just welcomed our friend Billy. Says we're in trouble now. Big Billy is watching. Big Billy. Is he in relation to Big Brother? Just going to check. Mick Norton says, Mick Saunders, make sure your NPAWS correspondent is for the attention of Julie Senior, the MD. Thank you very much indeed for that. Mick Saunders says, I totally agree with Mick's comment. Okay, well, it puts me in the minority. We have this conversation about tilt rotators and about quick couplers and about GPS systems and all of the driver aids, height restrictors and depth restrictors and all of those kind of things. I know that an operator should be able to do all of that by eye, by feel, but why would you? Why would you? I can drive from here to Manchester with a map on my lap, but I'd rather do it with GPS. I can unwind the window of my car, but I'd rather press a button. And as I say, I can reverse a car. I can drive a manual car and I can reverse a manual car looking over my shoulder. Or I can use an automatic car and I can watch the camera. Why would I not? Dan Cullen says, I don't know, but it depends on your eyesight. Well, maybe that's it. Maybe it's because I can see a video screen rather better than I can see over my shoulder. Because look, I'm wearing glasses again. Mick Saunders says, reason I say that, when I can get to it, reason I say that is I am old school. If you need all this help in cab, all this in cab help, to me, you're not a machine operator. So I'll ask the question again. Does that mean I am not a car driver? I learned to drive in a manual car with wind down windows, no automatic gearbox. I didn't have any kind of sat nav. I didn't have any fancy braking. I didn't have airbags. I have all of those things now. Does that stop me from being a car driver? Love to hear from you. Mick Knott says, if left unchallenged, manufacturers like JCB will swamp the cabs with clutter, which mitigates against many safety critical applications. There is that way of looking at it. And listen, I'm not here to speak on behalf of JCB. JCB are plenty big enough to do that for themselves. And I realise this is not a purely JCB criticism. But we talk constantly about the fact that we are not attracting enough experienced and competent workers into the industry. So maybe, just maybe, the answer is to give those newcomer operators, and even those with a bit more experience, a bit of a leg up. You know, here's some aids to take you from green to competent a little bit more quickly, or maybe to take you from good to really good a bit more quickly. Is that a bad thing? I'd prefer use my sense of direction to travel rather than sat nav. Listen, each to their own, and you are quite capable of turning it off or just not punching in where you're going in the first place. There are shops. My nearest Sainsbury's, or my nearest proper Sainsbury's, is about 1.5 miles away. Do I use sat nav to get there? Of course I don't. Of course I don't, because I know exactly where it is. I know all of the roads. If I am travelling, however, to somewhere in Preston to go and knock on Peter McKenna's door, am I using sat nav? Yes, of course I am, because I don't know the way. I've never been there before. Why would you not? Chris Ford apparently went to the same driving school as my wife. The secret to reversing is to stop when it goes crunch, or when you hear a splash. That's always a telltale sign. Dan Cullett says, yes, Mick, a good operator only has go on the ground where requires too many electronics in the cabs now. Yeah, I don't agree. I don't agree. Listen, I mean, I don't drive equipment. I drive a car. But keep bringing it on. If you can make my driving more comfortable, less stressful, I'll take that all day long. Andy Darvell says it's the old boys of this show, Mark. They don't like to put their trust in technology. That might be better than them. Tongue in cheek, tongue very much in cheek. Yeah, I listen. I do believe that we are in a position of transition. We're at a time of transition. You know, not just with fuel, with the advent of electric and hydrogen and any other alternative fuels, but also with technology. And I think there will come a time. Well, Andy Darvell is of this age, I would say. You know, Andy, Steve Williamson, likewise, they are of the age where electronics are part and parcel of life. Think about, you know, as I said, I'm only partly, but I'm partly scripting my show for Friday, where we're talking about Didcot. Now, I could have gone to the library, pulled up microfilm of all of the newspapers that covered the Didcot investigation and everything else, or I could go to Google. Why would I not do that? It's there to make things easier. Gary Muirhead rightly, I think, says, all I can say about a tilt rotator is work smarter, not harder. I think that applies to tilt rotators. I think that applies to quick couplers. I think that applies to all of the driver aids. I think that applies also to GPS. Work smarter, not harder. Mick Norton, on the other hand, says, I've lost count on the number of occasions I've said to an operator, I don't care what your screen within the cab is telling you, get your ass out of the seat and physically walk around the machine. When it comes to taking care of the machine and knowing your surroundings, 100%, we are back on the same wavelength, Mick. But I think once you've determined what that job is, if you've got a button you can press or a screen you can watch to make sure that what you're doing is precisely what you should be doing, why would you not? Why would you not? Who else have we got here? Mick Saunders says, I think Mick and I are sort of on the same page, but I have to admit he puts things in better perspective and more eloquently. That's why we have him here, because he is very eloquent and very knowledgeable. Should we get back to the show? Because we seem to have gone off down a blind alley. Let me just take that off the screen because that's just going to clutter things up. I think we need to play something. And I think we're going to have to play one of these. I've said it before and I'll say it again. While this show is very much about demolition and construction equipment, I do like the occasional venture beyond our comfort zone to see what's happening in other industry sectors. I like to keep an eye on mining and quarrying and waste, but also on forestry.
I'm a log yard operator at Idaho Forest Group at Chilco, Idaho. I've operated the 558 about 7 months, about 1,300 hours. We use the 558 for high decking, sorting, loading trucks. This 558 compared to the previous 558s that we have is way faster. Seems to have more power starting and stopping on your swing. It just seems a little bit quicker, a lot quicker. This 558 just seems to be way stronger lifting and doing one or two more functions at the same time. It doesn't seem to want to slow down. It just seems to have way more power. This one with the extra power, when I'm swinging towards the bunks and sorting logs, even if I do try to swing past, I can stop pretty quick, and it does let me do that and gets bigger bite, bigger volume. With the longer carriage on it, I don't think the machine rocks as bad when we're not on stable ground. Seems to be a lot more stable. I think I can see out of the machine very well, so it helps for the production. The machine seems to stay really cool with the climate control that it has. This summer, haven't had any problems. It's always kept me cool and seems to run great. The bigger space in the cab makes it easier for training if you have to train somebody new on what the job is. The visibility is great. I can see if people around you are swinging and sorting logs, and the cameras help a lot too. The touchscreen monitor is great for the radio and wanting to adjust different options on the machine. The joystick steering on it, I have used it quite a bit if you have to travel a long ways. I do set that and use it. It's pretty handy. It's easier than using the foot pedals. I like the rear entry of the cab. You have to climb up in the machine to check your oil and the fluids. You just get in the back of the machine, you're ready to go. The things that probably impress me the most is how fast it is, how quick it is compared to our other machines, and the visibility of it with the cameras and the bigger windows and being able to see out. It's been able to do all the different tasks that we have in this log yard. It's done them all.
Gary Muirhead says the division of companies in the Caterpillar Group is formal. I'm guessing he means phenomenal. I don't actually know, but I'm going to take a wild stab at that. Like the way he says, I can see better. I think I can see better. Either you do or you don't. Yeah, fair comment. Looks tidy, says Dan Cullen. Wonder if it could be converted to a demo machine. Quite possibly, I would say. Used to love the cat walks, the catwalks on the 235 and 245. 235 and 245. Remember those days. Graham Williams says, I like the rear entry of the cat. Like to give that a go. Looks interesting. I am going to come back to Mick Norton in just a second, but Mick Saunders says some of the forestry equipment these boys use are a wonder to behold. Love the grab with the saws, then it holds it while you strip the branches and bark off. Yes, absolutely tailor-made for the application. Now, good morning to Warwickshire Groundworks who've just joined us over on Instagram. Before I played that, Tristan Mays is watching it as well, all the way from the US of A. Good morning to you as well on Instagram. Before I played that, you will know we were talking about driver aids and my belief in electronics and stuff. And just before I played that film, I took a comment off the screen and I said, I'm going to take this off the screen or it will get cluttered. Mick Norton says, Mark, ironic you said I'll take that off the screen or it'll get cluttered. Touche, Mick. touche. I am hoist, I say, by my own petard. Well played, Mick. Well played indeed. Thank you very much indeed for that. Now, we're going to have a smidgen of this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Good morning to Ricky Jones, 1987, over on Instagram. We've already seen the latest, or very latest generation of backhoe loaders from JCB earlier in the show, but the company is not done with new product introductions quite yet. In fact, as you're about to see, it is boom time at JCB. Access equipment, not really my thing, but JCB do seem to have really taken its new product introduction program up a gear in the past few weeks. Long may it continue. Somebody has posted a comment in the chat. Now that's a tune, Now that's a tune, he says. Footy says, I don't mind driving a digger, but I ain't going up in one of them. Sorry, I don't like heights. No, I can't say I blame you. I don't have any issue with heights whatsoever, but I've been up in a lot of access platforms over the years, particularly those, the boom lift idea. And when you look down the boom and you can see it bowing with your weight, I'm carrying a bit of puppy fat, I'll be the first to admit, but I'm not that heavy. You see the bow in the boom. I find that deeply unnerving. Shall we press on? I think we probably should. Let's have a little bit of this. Yes, Intermat. Chinese equipment manufacturer Sunward will be among the 1,000 or so exhibitors vying for the attention of attendees at this year's Intermat. If they bring this kind of demonstration, I think they're going to be a real showstopper. I think you'll enjoy this. I realise that serves no practical purpose whatsoever, but I could watch it for hours. Good morning to Jimmy's Earthworks over on Instagram. Yes, I think that should just about do it. So I am looking forward to catching up with Sunward in Paris. I hope to see some of you there. I know that Gary Muirhead has just pointed out when I can find it. There we are. Don't forget, you can now get your free tickets for Scott Plant online right now. You can do that. You can get your tickets for Scott Plant. You can also get your tickets for Hillhead, and you can get your tickets for Intermat, all available online right now. Go and have a look. Go and have a look. Let's have a look. Over the years, you'd be surprised how many demo boys I've come across that don't like heights. I'm sure that is the case. It is a recognised fear and one that I fully understand. McDonald Landscapes over on Instagram just joined us as well. Gary Muirhead says, a good friend of mine has now started selling Sunward in Scotland. He's getting plenty of good feedback. Listen, I saw my first Sunward in the UK probably, I'm going to take a wild stab at 6 years ago. And it was a piece of crap. It was square and it was boxy. It looked like it was just waiting to be consumed by corrosion and rust. Looked bloody awful. Didn't see one for a couple of years, and then I saw one and I thought, well, that's an improvement. Saw another, that was an improvement, and then I saw them at Plant Works last year, and they looked pretty bloody good. Pretty bloody good. They had an electric machine on the stand, which, listen, I think it's on a par with just about anything else we've got available in the electric mini excavator market. So you pay your money and takes your choice. Mick Norton says, I once did some access training for a Bradford-based church rector who was in need of regularly checking the lead on his church roof in the city centre. When we were both in the basket and 80 foot up, I noticed his clenched knuckles were whitening, and I flippantly remarked, "Nearer, my God, to thee." In his course feedback, I received a thumbs down. But well played. Nearer, my God, to thee. Yes, well done. Well done indeed. Somebody said you were eloquent earlier. I think that just about proves it. Now, it is about time to wrap up the main part of this morning's show. I will remind you very quickly, I'm going away for a few hours, and then I'm coming back again, because at 7 o'clock tonight, we will be talking about who speaks for the construction workout. That will be 7 p.m. tonight with my mate Andy Stevens. Between now and then, I'm going to go and drink lots of tea, possibly have a nap this afternoon just to get myself in the right frame of mind. Mike Durst 31 over on Instagram. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Good morning. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'm going to be back after the crack. I'm going to be back with the crack, should I say, immediately after a final word from our key show sponsor, where we'll be looking at who you'd like to punch. I've already given you my list. I want to see who you'd like to punch. And I'm fairly sure we're going to be talking about technology and cab clutter and all that. Cab clutter and stuff as well. So stick around. See you in a sec. Got some other music. I think the music has been pretty good on today's show. Hope you enjoyed it. We do put some tiny bit of effort into the music on these things where we can. We're going to go back to the very beginning of the chat where it all began. Bloody hell, there's loads of comments today. Dan Cullen was actually here before the show even started and said good morning, and then he came back literally as the show started with a shorter version and said morning. Good morning to you, Dan. Thank you very much indeed for being here. And I have to say, I have to pause very quickly to say quite how Dan Cullen managed to get our mystery machine today. That was what he had to work with, and he got it. From that, it was a CAT 745 ADT. Congratulations, Dan. Well spotted, my friend. Let's have a look. Who else is here? Chris Ford is here. Good morning, Chris. Hope you're fitting well, my friend. Gary Muirhead is here as well. Peter McKenna is here. Mark Whiting. And there's Dan, apologising for his absence. We don't need your apologies, Dan. Sorry, not been around, been busy on a few little bits. Not a problem at all. I fully understand. Listen, In an ideal world, everybody would be here every day. I realise life doesn't work like that. And listen, I missed a show last week, and I host the damn thing. So you are more than forgiven. But thank you very much indeed. For that, Jim Turner is here as well. Peter McKenna is up in Preston, where it is lashing down. As it turns out, it's lashing down pretty much everywhere, I think. Glenn Johnston is here. Nigel Williams, good to see Nigel back in our midst again. Morning, Nigel. I hope you're fit and well, my friend. And then I did the thing again, didn't I? Lost the post-it note. No sound. Yes. No, listen. The post-it note's there. It's there. I just decided not to look at it. I don't know. Or going back to what, and I'll come back to it in just a second, but going back to what I was saying about all things electronic. This is our 670th outing of this show, which means that we've done about 820 shows in total since I decided that this was the way that I was going to earn my living in the future. Just realised I'm talking behind a picture, and I've also realised that the music has gone away. So let me play that again. Yeah, so we've done 670 of these shows. But there are things that I regularly miss. You know, I forget to do the intro, or I forget to post the question of the day, or I have the question of the day in one place but not in another. So I over the Christmas period, I spent a lot of time teaching myself how to use things like Apple reminders. So I've actually got a checklist for the show, and I can go through. So things like, is the intro done? Tick. Have I got the microphone switched on? Tick. And are the lights working? Tick. And yet, despite all of that, still get it wrong. All the driver aids, no idea. Let's have a look. And so, yes, Gary says, where is the post-it note? Post-it note's there. Maybe I need an electronic one that just pops off the screen and smacks me between the eyes. Dan Cullen says, I'm not on Instagram. Lots of people are, though. Not entirely sure how long people stay around on Instagram. I see when they arrive, but I don't see when they leave. Don't know what's going on with that. There we are. Peter McKenna saying he's even lost my button. I most certainly have not. There you are. Good morning, Peter. Sick note McKenna. There we are. Let's have a look. Gaz Evans. Gaz Evans is preparing for Hillhead. I wish I could say the same. I mean, I am planning to be there, obviously, but I tend to take things in bite-sized chunks, and the chunk that I'm about to bite, well, obviously I'm going to get through tonight's show. We're also going to get through Friday's Didcot special. We're going to get through the NRMM show with Tim Burnhope next week. But my focus at the moment very much is on Intermat. Once Intermat is out the way, my focus will shift to Hillhead, and then once Hillhead is out the way, my focus will shift to Mine Expo in Las Vegas, because I'm planning to be there. Yeah. Ken Hatcher started the deluge of weather reports. He says, good morning, lots of umbrellas, lots of rain, and then everybody else said exactly the same thing. Andy Darvell joined us and said, morning. He's regular welcome. Gary Muirhead says, I can't believe it's nearly 8 years and still no outcome. Shocking. I know I always compare it to the same old thing, but bear in mind, in the time that it's taken to investigate and achieve nothing at Hillhead, I think we've had 4 different prime ministers. I think David Cameron was still there, Theresa May, Liz Truss, Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak. We've actually had 5. Can you believe it? And we can change an entire government, but we cannot carry out an investigation. And I will be getting into this more on Friday. But you think about some of the investigations that have come and gone before then. And I am going to highlight one on Friday. And you are left with the feeling, is this a failing of the investigating authorities, or is this more specifically a failing of Thames Valley Police and the Health and Safety Executive? I know where I come down on that. You'll be finding out about that on Friday, should you care to join us. I will warn you in advance, no video. Going to be somber. It's going to be very serious. In every likelihood, we will probably be joined by some of the family members of those guys that were killed, which I'll come back to that in just a moment because I've got a comment here from Gary Muirhead. Dan Collins says he's back on a Volvo 140 today at Redhead Demolition. Good company, good machine. Happy days, Dan. Just wish the weather was a little kinder. There we are, Ken Hatcher lashing down here at Raining Cats and Dogs in the Isle of Dogs. Gary Muirhead says, did you manage to get an interview with Natalie Huxtable, and will she come on the show on Friday? I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. Natalie Huxtable has been through the ringer, and it's taken its toll. She's lost not just her big brother Chris, but she also lost her other big brother in the period between Chris's death at Didcot and the present day, and it has taken its toll on her. So no, she will not. She won't be actually on the show. And between these four walls, I had arranged to go and interview Natalie down in Wales about this time last year, actually, and she cried off at the last minute. And I fully understand that. Hard enough to talk about just in general chat form. Do you really want to be doing that on camera? I mean, I made the offer and felt slightly uncomfortable doing so. Do you really want to be exposing your grief and the grief of your family on camera that way? Probably not. I don't think I'd want to do it. So I fully understand. But yeah, I spoke to Natalie Friday, Saturday and Sunday of this week, actually. So I'm very much expecting her to be in attendance, even if she's only watching. She'll probably be over on Instagram. So if anybody wants to relay any messages to Natalie and her family, do it wherever you normally do it, and I'll relay them over onto Instagram as well. Luke Carney, as I say, she's been up to the gunnels, I think, with Executive Hire Show, which sounds like it was a rip-roaring success. I didn't go. The equipment a bit too small for my tastes, but apparently it was a rip-roaring success, and I certainly saw plenty of content coming out of, not surprisingly, Content with Media. Our friend Peter Haddock, who was there hosting the Innovation Trail over there. So if you want to know what went on at the Exec Car Show, I obviously have let you down terribly, but go and find Peter on YouTube or on LinkedIn, where he normally lives. Go and take a look. Desmond Turner, Diggers and Dozers, where is this situated in Australia? No, we're not in Australia at all. We're here in the UK, you know, the motherland for many Australians. Still lots and lots of people talking about the weather. Lots and lots of people talking about the weather. Andy Noel says, it's not raining in my cab. Thank God. Do you know, that's one of the... excuse me, my socks are on there. One of my, and I don't know whether this is just me, one of my great pleasures, I think. You know, when you're tucked up in bed of an evening and there's a thunderstorm raging outside, it's chucking it down with rain, there's thunder and lightning, but you've got a duvet pulled up and you're safe and secure from it. I like that. I don't do it so much anymore, but the number of times I used to do night fishing or even daytime fishing, you've got a fishing umbrella over your head, so you're protected from the elements. It's lashing it down outside, but you're undercover with the rain falling all around you, but you're bone dry, you've got a cup of coffee in your hand, sandwich in the other. Happy days. I think that's about as good as life gets. I'm a man of simple pleasures. Our question of the day was this: who in the world would you most like to punch? I'm a little surprised that nobody said me, actually, but thank you very much indeed for that. Yes, I drew up a long list. I would probably put Donald Trump at the very, very upper arc of my my list. But if anybody else has got any suggestions on that, lots of very quick answers or suggestions on our question of the day. Mick's on the seat. Mick is very much like me. Not sure we have the time to list them all. I didn't list them all. I did list some, and I do. Obviously, Donald Trump is kind of the worst human of his generation. He would definitely get one. Michael Gove has just got a face that just looks like it needs punching. But lots of other people, and as I say, this current band of comedians with their wokeness and their lack of humour, all of those, I'd like to give them a damn good. Gordon Ramsay. Gordon Ramsay, good God Almighty, he needs a punch in the throat. Let's have a look. Peter McKenna is not punching anyone because he is a peace-loving guy. Well, fair play to you. You will note that my list did not contain a single woman because ultimately, in spite of everything, I am not going to punch a woman. My wife, however, rightly I believe, says Katie Hopkins, and sometimes me. Take out your anger on Katie Hopkins. I think she's got it coming. And if you've got any stamina left after that, you can take a swing at me as well. But yes, I'm not punching women, but I fully support my wife's decision to punch Katie Hopkins. Again, lots and lots of comments on the Mystery Machine. Is that 2 times now? Does that mean I've left the sound off? I think it's 3 actually. Now, funnily enough, I mentioned who I would like to punch, and I listed a bunch of comedians: Joe Lycett, Nish Kumar, and James Acaster, all of whom I find about. And what's that Widdicombe fella? Josh Widdicombe, about as funny as catching your testicles in a chest of drawers. The one I left out, and I left him out on purpose, was Michael McIntyre, because there was something lurking in the back of my brain that thought that somebody on this show was a Michael McIntyre fan. And I didn't want to get into why I wanted to punch Michael McIntyre into his Chinesey face. Turns out it wasn't the fact that somebody on the show likes Michael McIntyre, it was the fact that somebody doesn't like Michael McIntyre. And that person was Gary Muirhead. His answer to our question of the day: who would you most like to punch in the world? Michael McIntyre. Did I say I really detest the guy? You did, only I had mistakenly remembered it as you were a fan, or somebody was a fan. But no, but Gary, you and I tell you what, we will take it in turns. We'll get ourselves a couple of tickets to Michael McIntyre, and we'll have to act quickly because I don't want to do it. I don't want him to start his act because that would just make me more angry. We'll get a couple of tickets and we'll take it in turns to punch him in the head. Let's have a look. Who else have we got? We're going on. I've seen too many answers to the who would you like to punch. I have to make do with my list. Donald Trump, Michael Gove, watch your step, fellas, and Vladimir Putin. But please don't poison me. Why don't they come up with power forks? All it would take would be a RAM and additional cost and additional maintenance and stuff. I'm sure there's a good reason, but if anyone from JCB is watching, please get in touch with Gary Muirhead and tell him why we don't have power forks. Peter McKenna, I think we are all in agreement that all things AdBlue are bad. And I wonder, how were we all paying attention? I don't remember this because I don't think you tend to worry about these things unless you're actually in the process of changing vehicles, which I wasn't at the time. But we went along with this whole AdBlue to reduce engine emissions thing. Now, admittedly, it lasts a long while, or it certainly does in my wife's car because it doesn't really go anywhere. But I went to fill up my car on the way back from JCB, put 100 quid's worth of diesel in the thing, and then I had to pay, I think it was like 25 quid for the AdBlue as well. I don't remember anyone saying, this AdBlue to reduce your emissions. You do realise you're going to have to fork out an additional 25 quid every once in a while just so that we can tick a box. I don't remember that conversation. Were we told? Were we told about that? Could they not have added it to the fuel itself? I don't know how it works, but were we sold a pup? I think we probably were. Ken Hatcher, thoroughly enjoying the input of Georgina from JCB, the JCB Digger Girl. It was quite funny actually. My knowledge of Georgina was that she was the JCB Digger Girl over on Instagram. Obviously, she did her charity open water swim, but it was under the guise, at least in my experience, of the JCB Digger Girl. And we pointed the camera at her and said, can you introduce yourself? Hi, I'm Georgina, the JCB Digger Girl. And she seemed quite surprised that she was known by that name. Yeah, she is, and forever shall be. Well, at least until she decides to go somewhere else, I guess. Ken Hatcher likes the camera. Totally agree. Both of them. Dan Cullen, a very informative lady on the products of JCB. Well done, Georgina. What the film doesn't show is we went to the JCB Theatre at the world headquarters the day before we filmed that. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll have already seen this. JCB do a thing. So you go into the theatre, they have a couple of people stand up and talk for a bit, and then they do the big reveal. So a curtain goes up, there's loud music, laser beams, smoke and mirrors and all the things. And there on the stage was a brand new mini excavator and a brand new 3-ton electric dumper. And then the following day, you go to what used to be Kevin Quarry, but it's now the JCB Demonstration Centre or whatever it might be, and they've now built a pavilion with glass front and everything else, theatre style seating, and then you sit there and you have a series of people, product specialists, who stand up and say, outside you can see the new twin drum compactors. Here you can see the teleskid, and all of the product specialists talk about that. The person that spoke about the backhoe loaders was Georgina. She knows her backhoe loaders well enough to be able to do that, not just off the cuff, but to a collected bunch of British and French journalists. And trust me, we're a tough audience to please. She's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Jim Turner, getting off of the subject of ladies and getting on to the subject of forks. I think they could make the fork carrier wider, so they go as wide as the bucket-mounted ones, as it makes moving pipes, ducting and lengths of timber safer and easier. Anybody's got any thoughts on that? Please let me know. Then we had what I believe to be the case. AdBlue is the byproduct of pig urine, and then we were told it is not. I'll come back to that in a second. They would be better to have the see-through bucket camera that one of the wheel loaders came up with. That was the Doosan or the Demolition wheel loader that has what they refer to as the transparent bucket, and it's a remarkable piece of engineering and technology. One of the only disappointments of our last trip to ConExpo was that I got to meet the guy that had designed that. Not surprisingly, given the fact that he works for... It was that day of transition. He worked for Doosan, but he now works for Demolition, and I got to meet him. And we pointed a camera at him, and we got him mic'd up. But he is very Korean. And he was so Korean that we basically couldn't make each other understood. So we recorded an interview that is basically incomprehensible. Terrible shame, because I think in terms of some of the technology we featured on this show and on some of our evening shows, I think that's right up there with some of the very best. Just couldn't get into and it's my fault. If I spoke something other than pretty poor English, maybe I'd have got on better. Let's have a look. Apparently, urea is not made from pig urine. It is made in a laboratory. And he goes on to say, many people believe that the urea in AdBlue is made of pig urine. It isn't, he says. The urea used to make AdBlue is a man-made solution. Pig urine wouldn't be sterile or pure enough for a commercial product. Well, you live and learn. I was just assuming that were the case. Jim Turner says, the Smurf juice, which is AdBlue, obviously. Horrible stuff. I am inclined to agree. And this is what sparked one of the conversations. Although the JCB young lady admirably demonstrated an innovative camera technique, I should state that any forklift truck operator worth his or her salt would not need a camera or enhancement aids. I disagree entirely. I think everyone should have all of the aids all of the time, and then leave them to decide whether they need to use them. As I said, trying to compare my weird little world with the wider construction industry, I don't use sat-nav to go to my local shops because I know the way. But when I'm going somewhere I don't know the way, I use the sat-nav. Why would you not? Gary, listen, there's nothing I'd like more than to get a video out of Gove to show you the 1300. But bearing in mind, the machine was actually delivered back end of last year, and I think it finally arrived on site around about October, November, and it's taken. I think it took about 3, possibly even 4 months to get a video of its delivery. I'm still speaking to Craic, Australia. I'm still reaching out, but it's literally in the lap of the gods. We had the Demolition with the music and the thing with the stuff. Brings back memories of working with Balfour Beatty on pylon work, says Ken Hatcher. Mick Saunders. Yeah, I have to say, the idea of cutting up steel that is suspended from a crane did seem a little odd to me. But it was in New Jersey, and maybe they do things differently there. Chris Ford says, new machines just landed on site. Nobody's rushing to unload it. Is that because it's chucking it down with rain? Probably is. Chris Ford says, we're in trouble now. Big Billy is watching, and that is Big Billy is Billy Upton. I don't know who Billy Upton is. I don't know where in the world he is, but Billy, you're very, very welcome. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Let's have a look. And I think there is the thing. And listen, each to their own and everything else. But Mick Saunders says, reason I say that is I'm old school. If you don't need all this help in the cab, to me, you're not a machine operator. I disagree. As I say, I mean, I can only liken it to a car because I'm not in a machine full time. But I want the airbags, I want the ABS braking, I want the GPS and the sat nav, I want the electric windows and the automatic gearbox. I learned to drive and did drive for quite some years without all of those things. I believe I can drive a car. But if somebody wants to make my life a little bit easier, I'm going to snatch their arm off. Mick Dalton, kind of setting me up for a fall here. If left unchallenged, manufacturers like JCB will swamp the cabs with cab clutter, which mitigates against many safety critical applications. And then I went and took a comment off the screen because it was cluttered, and Mick shot me down in flames. So thank you for that. I prefer to use my sense of direction to travel rather than sat nav. As I say, each to their own. But would you necessarily want the sat nav completely removed from your car? Because sometimes it comes in handy. That would be my feeling. Andy Dovell says, it's the old boys on this show, Mark. They don't like to put their trust in technology. That might be better than them. Tongue very much in cheek. Yeah. Do you know it's a very good argument, and I realise that both Mick and both Micks, are retirement agent and what have you. But you know, some of the operators that criticise technology and stuff, I wonder what they would think if they were actually genuinely exposed to it. You know, if somebody took the time to say, you know, you're already a really good operator, but here's all these bells and whistles and tools and widgets and everything else. How good would they be if they had access to that? I wonder. Mick sort of says, I think Mick Norton and I are sort of on the same page, but I have to admit he puts things in better perspective and more eloquently. He most certainly does as well. This is that should be above my head for these shows. Work smarter, not harder. And think about a tilt rotator, you know. I realise, you know, being able to do whirly gigs with your bucket and all that. I understand all of that, and it's nice, and it's nice to be able to watch and all the things. But that business of kind of digging round a manhole, a circular manhole, you know, up until now you'd have had to dig a bit, move the machine, dig a bit, move the machine, dig a bit, move the machine, and you're constantly doing that. Do it in one movement now. But why would you not? And there's Mick Dalton hoisting me by my own petard. Yeah, Mark, ironic you said I'll take that off the screen or it'll get cluttered. And listen, don't get me wrong, I am every bit as concerned as you guys. I think we find ourselves in a certain period of technological development at the moment where you have equipment manufacturers have developed a machine that has a screen in it to control the functions of that machine. You then potentially have another system, GPS or machine control, that require another screen. You might also have an attachment that requires another system and another screen, so you end up with 3 screens. I guess potentially you could have even more than that. There will come a time when everybody in this industry just agrees on a particular type of computer language, and everything will be on one screen. It'll be tucked away nice, and we'll all just get on with our lives with one screen, no cab clutter, nice clear forward vision, or 360-degree vision, but with one screen that does all the things that you need it to do one day. Let's have a look. Who else have we got here? Mick Saunders says, some of the forestry equipment these boys use, wonder to behold, love the grab of the saws that holds it while they strip the branches off. That's, to be honest, that's one of the reasons I like to pop over and have a look at forestry and mining and quarrying, because they are doing things that we're not currently doing. Some of the things that we're learning about autonomous machine operation is coming straight from the mining industry. It's not happening here yet, but if it's going to happen, it will probably look a lot like that. So that's why I pop over there to have a look. Jim Turner enjoyed one of our tunes. I'm not sure which one it was. Gary Muirhead with a very quick reminder. Yes, don't forget, you can get your tickets for Scott Plant right now. Go and take a look at that. You can get your tickets for Hillhead as well, and Intermat. And should you be that way inclined, you can probably get your tickets for Mine Expo as well. Not sure on that one, but you can certainly get the tickets for the others. Let's have a look. Yeah, Mick Saunders says, over the years, you'd be surprised how many demo boys I came across that didn't like heights. And yet, bear in mind, we used to have, and I guess we still do have, I think there is actually a card for it, a Top Man card. The original, Mick will tell you way more about this than I can, but the original idea of a Top Man card was, as the name suggests, you worked up top. You were the guy working at height. You got paid a little bit more, but you were in more danger. That's where the Top Man came from. Gary Muirhead says one of his friends is now selling Sunward in Scotland, getting plenty of good feedback. I'd be surprised if it wasn't the case, actually. As I say, the latest generation, blindfold, you would not know they were Chinese. No, that's not fair. You wouldn't know they were Chinese if you've stripped off all the paintwork and the nomenclature and everything else. You wouldn't know they were Chinese. They've got all of the bells and whistles you would expect to find, plus a few more. Very, very smart machines indeed. Now what they will be like in the long term, what they will be like for resale value, I've no idea, because it's pretty early days, but they certainly look the part. And I will say, Sunward are very, very committed. They've got their European base over in, I think they are just up the road from Hyundai. So they're kind of the Dutch-Belgian border, round about Tessenderlo. But they've set up, so they've got support there, they've got parts there. They are committed. I think that says a lot. Mick Saunders says both the HSE and the police. Yeah, well, listen, they are both worthy of criticism, in my opinion. The police, the Thames Valley Police, do have primacy over the investigation into Didcot, but ultimately it is the two of them that are working on it. In our imparting of blame for delaying Didcot inquiry and prosecution, as well as the HSE and TVP, the CPS are a heavy influencer in events. That is the Criminal Prosecution Service. One of the things that really strikes me about this, and maybe this is something that goes hand in hand with death. When I gave the eulogy at my mum's funeral, one of the things that I mentioned was the number of people whose lives my mum had touched. Good morning, Ivory Demo over on Instagram, by the way. Yeah, the number of people whose lives my mum had touched. She was part of a big family, lots of cousins, lots of aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews and all of the things. And lots of people, after the funeral, they came up and said, "Oh, she touched my life and everything else." And there was this big kind of outpouring of condolence and everything else. And then a couple of days later, the messages of condolence dried up, and the world didn't stop, and she wasn't on the front page of the newspapers. That is even more large with Didcot. Four working men died in a single accident. It was a major news story. It was on Sky, it was on ITV, it was on the BBC. It was mentioned in the House of Commons. And with each passing anniversary, the media covered it less and less. This time last year, I think I did probably 2 interviews for radio. The year before that, it was probably 5. It's been as many as 20 in the past. None this year. Now, I don't care. I'm not bothered whether I'm involved in all of that or not, because I'm going to do that here. But the world has moved on, even though the families of the guys that were killed have not been allowed to. That is one of my many bugbears. Mick Sumner says, to be honest, I think we need to leave Natalie out. She has had enough, God bless her. Yes, she has. Yes, she absolutely has. Mick Norton, who would you like to punch? Gary Lineker. Seems a little unkind, but Adam Sandler. You find him that objectionable, do you? Well, if we're going Adam Sandler, I'm going to throw Ben Stiller under the bus as well while we're here. Dan Collins says, Tony Blair has a face that needs a slap, as so does David Cameron. Some of the clowns that run some construction companies to get them to get sensible. Don't act on it. It's just a game. But I know where you're coming from. Let's have a look. There are no new comedians. None are funny, and the sense of humour is non-existent. Dig up Dave Allen, Tommy Cooper, and the like. Listen, I am 99% with you. Dave Allen, brilliant. Tommy Cooper, brilliant. Billy Connolly, who is still with us, and I realise he's not performing anymore, brilliant. I like Peter Kay. I like Mickey Flanagan. Lee Evans, back in the day, all very, very good. If you fancy, if you like your humour a bit dark, there's an American guy called Anthony Jeselnik. Give him a watch. He's very good. He really is. Chris Ford says, a list too long to mention. And Chris Ford also says, you can't beat enhancement tools, as the actress said to the bishop. You know that expression, as the actress said to the bishop. How often do actresses and bishops ever get to have a chat? I know that's an expression. I've used it myself. Does that happen? And when actresses do speak to bishops, is it always something laden with innuendo? I don't know if it is. Chris Ford says, sat-nav is the car equivalent of GPS for a machine. Yes, it absolutely is. Mick Dalton says, sat-navs, automatic gearbox, electric windows, cab-based GPS are worthy inclusions, but it's the safety critical factors of the practical applications where cab clutter might be a casual contributory factor in an accident. I wonder, is that being studied? We get the occasional news report of somebody following the letter of the law according to their sat-nav and ended up driving the wrong way around the M25 or parking their car in the local canal. Do we have any feedback on that in terms of construction equipment, where somebody has followed precisely what their machine or their driver aids have said in their cab, and it has resulted in some kind of catastrophe? Are those figures available? I'd like to know. Mick Saunders says, the talk of cab aids is a good question for tonight. If, and I believe it is a big if, machines become autonomous and remote controlled, where does that leave operators? If a nuclear missile failed to launch, then who can say a machine will not run amok? It's a good question. Good question. Don Rickles was one of my favourite comedians. Oh boy, Don Rickles. He had no bounds. I don't know if anybody's ever seen. Don Rickles sort of came up. You may have actually spotted him. He's actually got a part in the movie Goodfellas. But he obviously was a comedian back in the day, and was apparently big friends with the likes of Frank Sinatra, but also done movies, as I say, with the likes of Robert De Niro. And bearing in mind, Sinatra and De Niro, two of the biggest stars in the world, and he let them have it with both barrels. They reloaded and had another going. Really, really close to them up. Very, very good. Chris Ford says, don't like heights myself, can't beat terra firma. The more firmer, the less terror, he says. That's very good. You should be here doing this. Talk about Sunward. Just seeing the Sunward mini track crane pass here. The mini track cranes, I quite like those. I think there is a lot to be said for those. Chris Ford says, judging by the news reports today, they haven't got a missile that works. It crashed just after launch. I haven't seen that. I came in here early to try and get some of the scripting done for tonight and for Friday as well. So, yeah, haven't seen that. I'm going to go and take a look. But that should just about do us, I think. There's Dan Cullen saying, have a wonderful wet day, guys. Stay dry and stay happy. Yes, do that. And then join me again. Join me again for this evening. I'm hoping I've had a response from Andy Stevens. He told me last week that he was okay for tonight. I'm hoping that is still the case. But failing that, we'll have a chat amongst ourselves one way or another. But I do want, is this a marathon show? It's headed that way. Where are we? Hour and 31 minutes. Gary, you've been here from the very beginning. Do you remember when this show used to last 10 minutes? Do you remember that? Those are good times, weren't they? Mick Saunders says, see you all later, gents. Stay safe and most of all dry. Chris Ford says, try to catch you later, darts permitting. Chances are the conversation will go on plenty long enough for you to join us either before or after, or even during, Chris. So not a problem at all. Yes, with that being said, I'm going to call it a day. I'm back here at 7 o'clock tonight. Join us if you can. Of all the shows that we do, this is the one where I really desperately want your feedback, because I am obviously one step removed. I watch from the periphery of the industry how the industry actually works. You guys are at the coalface. So, you know, the fact that you can be off-hired, Dan Cullen, I'm looking at you now, the fact that you can be off-hired without a moment's notice, that's the sort of thing I'm after. I'm after things like Peter McKenna and the hoops he's had to jump through to get to work, even though he's proven that he can do the job. People like our friend Footy, who has been given the runaround on medicals and various other, and PPE and stuff like that. Those are the stories I want to share. I want to get an idea of how the industry really treats those that works within us, within it rather. Gary Muirhead says this show is almost as long as his sex life. I tell you what, Gary, if you're doing an hour and 32 minutes, Mrs. Muirhead must be a very happy lady indeed. And on that note, I'm going to call it a day. Hope to see you tonight. If not, I'll see you tomorrow. Till then, everybody, have a fantastic day. Stay dry. See you soon.